And we are live. Welcome to another edition of the Toehold MMA podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and I am here to break down UFC Vegas 12, Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall. Unfortunately, my normal co host, Ryan, is a little under the weather today, so he's not going to be able to make it. So let's get down to break this card. We got, I believe there's 11 fights left right now. We lost Courtney Casey versus Priscilla Cachoeira. I have a feeling there could be a chance there's going to be more cancellations. It seems like every time we go to Vegas, day of fights, we get a bunch. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you haven't done so, download the DFI app, and you'll get alerts for any fights that are canceled or we change anything for any reasons. We'll send out an alert. But anyways, if you're new to this podcast, if you haven't, subscribed to Daily Fantasy Insider before, use promo code DAYFRIEND. You'll get yourself a free 30-day read-only subscription to Daily Fantasy Insider. The link or the website is listed below. That's scrolling down. If you haven't done so, hit the subscribe button. Get the like, hit the bell, make sure you get notified when we go live. And let's go down to break down the slate. First fight of the night, we got Miles Johns, 8,400, taking on Kevin Natividad, 7,800. Miles Johns is currently a minus 145 or 145 favorite, with Kevin Natividad at a plus 125 underdog. This is going to be a pretty close fight. They're both very stylistically the same. They both like to use their wrestling and they like to throw big punches. But when I taped this fight, I just didn't think Kevin Natividad was that good. I mean, the competition that he's fought on the regional scene wasn't the best. He lost, I think, his last fight before that. He lost to someone who was 7-7. He's been rocked a few times. He's been knocked out previously. Where Miles Johns has faced some good guys right off the bat. With Batista and a couple other fights. I just think Miles Johns is just kind of better everywhere this fight goes. I think the only area where Natividad is maybe a little bit better is he has a little bit more diverse striking. But I just think that they both possess a lot of power. They both are, I would say, low or pretty low volume. Around, I would say, Natividad is probably the same volume as Johns at around 3. But Natividad, when I watch him his fights, he wants to keep people down, but he also struggles to get people down. And Miles Johns actually got some pretty good takedown defense when he fought Cole Williams. He was able to defend the takedowns for the most part. But I see the reason. I mean, Natividad is probably going to be one of the chalkier underdog plays at 7,800. He's got a pretty decent inside the distance line at plus 300. But I still think Miles Johns is going to win this fight. It's probably going to go to decision. I don't think this is a fight you really want to target in general for GPP, but I know a lot of people will probably target Natividad because of his power and, being an underdog and being a closely lying fight. But I think Johns is the play, and you could probably do Johns and GPP as just a low ownership play, but I still don't think he's going to score very high unless he gets a knockout, which could happen. But this would not be a fight I'm targeting necessarily, but people will see that Natividad has it's going to be a close fight. Next fight, we got Dustin Jacoby, 8,900 versus Justin Ledet, 7,300. Jacoby is the current minus 340 favorite, and Ledet is a plus 280 underdog. This is another fight where Dustin Jacoby was in the UFC at one point. He fought a couple tough guys. He got booted from the UFC, went on the kickboxing scene, and he did very well. He's a very accomplished kickboxer. He came back, went on the Contender Series, and absolutely destroyed his opponent. He looked awesome. He's probably one of my favorite fighters that I've watched on Dana White Contender Series this past season. And I don't know where Justin Ledet is going to win this fight because he's a boxer, and his boxing is not going to be good enough to withstand the leg kicks from Jacoby. Jacoby's going to kick his legs to death, and even striking, Jacoby's very well talented. So I think this is a fight for GPPs. Jacoby definitely has the upside. I could see him getting a knockout, but Justin's only been finished one time, so I don't see it being very likely. Jacoby's more of like if you're playing like 5 lines, you'd probably have him in maybe 1 or 2, but he's not someone you're going to be in your single entry lines. But he does have high upside. Out of the people in that 9,000 to high 800s, he's probably going to be to the middle to bottom of that ownership in that ranking, just because there's some other guys around him who I think are going to garner higher ownership. Justin Ledet is not a bad cash play because I honestly think the likely outcome of this fight is going to end up going to decision. And he throws a decent volume at a little over 3. And I think he can hang in there, be tough enough, and do well. So Ledet I see more as like a cash play with has some GPP upside because the biggest problem with Jacoby is his cardio. So, Ledet could take over this fight late, but I still like Jacoby a lot in this fight. More than likely, it wins by decision. So, next fight, we got Cole Williams versus Jason Wendt. I don't even know why this fight's on the card. These are 2 really crappy fighters. Cole Williams missed weight. I think it was 4.5 pounds. And Jason Wood actually looked pretty good at weigh-ins. Cole Williams is a low-volume striker, but he does throw with a lot of power, where Jason Witt throws a pretty good volume. But the problem with him is he has a glass chin. When he gets hit, he's probably going to get knocked out. He's been knocked out or knocked down multiple times. Actually, he's been knocked out 4 times, sub twice. So that's his biggest flaw is he has no chin. I think Cole Williams is going to end up getting the knockout. He's probably going to be somewhat of a popular play just because he has a better inside the distance line out of the 2 fighters. But again, it's probably one of those sneaky fights that are ending to be on the optimal lineup. But I could see why people like Jason Wood. He's the better talented fighter. We actually got our first question ever in here. Who's the biggest edge contrarian play of the slate? Good question, Will. Let me think about that. I'll get back to that. I'll post this again in a little bit. But overall, I think this is a sneaky play in the mid-range. I think the mid-range is going to be very popular in the builds, and I think you're probably going to want one or the other. I mean, it's plus 125 to go finish inside the distance, but I have a feeling this fight's more likely to finish inside the distance. So, but I lean Cole Williams. I know Ryan likes Jason Witt, but it's a very sloppy, low level fight, and you never know where it's going to go. Next fight, we got Sean Strickland, 9,100 versus Jack Marshman, 7,100. Sean Strickland is currently a minus 370 favorite. Jack Marshman comes in at plus 305. This is a fight. Sean Strickland should win this fight all day. Jack Marshman has terrible takedown defense, and Sean Strickland, averages a little over a takedown fight, but Jack Marshman defends at 20%. And when Jack Marshman gets down, he doesn't get back up. The problem is that Sean Strickland had a vicious motorcycle accident 2 years ago. It's the same type of injury that Jason Williams had, the basketball player, and a couple other famous athletes have had, and it's tough to come back from. Everything I've seen on Instagram, though, he looks to be in great shape. And if I think he wasn't in good shape or if he wasn't healthy enough, I think that he wouldn't be fighting. So I think Sean Strickland's going to dominate this fight, whether it stays standing or whether it goes on the feet. He has the striking advantage. At one time he was a highly touted prospect, but he had a couple setbacks. But Marshman is the lowest of the low in 185, and I just think Marshman's going to find his way out the door. Sean Strickland's a great play. I could see this going the distance potentially. Strickland's not a very he only finishes fights at 65%, so the chance it could go to decision. But I think he has a legit shot of getting a finish, whether it's ground and pound or sub, when he gets Marshman down. All right, we got some more questions. We got Chris Haynes, favorite dog below Feely. Feely is 7,700. That's tough because this is a really crappy card for after you have Andre Feely at 7,700, who I like as an underdog. Then they got Cole Williams as an underdog. I like Kevin Natividad is not a bad underdog, but these are no one's under Andre Fili. Andre Fili is going to be a very popular fighter. If I had to pick one under that range, I'd guess it would either be Maurice Green, then it would probably be Anderson Silva, and then I'd probably say I just don't like anybody else in that range after that. Maybe even Justin Ledet potentially, but there's not I mean, Justin Ledet does have a ton of upside. Anderson, has some upside, but he hasn't finished a fight in I think it's been like 8 years or something like that, and he's lost 6 out of his last 7, I believe, or 7 out of his last 8 fights. So there's not really much upside with Silva either. Maurice Green has some upside if he can get the fight to the mat. He can get some subs, so he's not a bad play. And the other one that could be okay, it would be kind of more of a he's either going to get a sub or bust would be Thiago Moises. But Bobby Green has never been finished via sub, or at least not recently. So that's the only fighters really below that. I mean, when we go from some other cheap fighters, I don't like Jack Marshman at all. I don't like Victor Rodriguez at all. Goossemacher, he would probably be better than those two options at 6,900, but still don't like him a lot. But I also don't trust Alex Hernandez a lot, so that would be, I would say, an absolute punt. I think that really covers it. The only other one probably would have been if she was still on the card, would have been Priscilla Cachoeira, but but that's about it. This is kind of a crappy card as far as there's a lot of big favorites, a lot of plus 300, 70% chance or better of winning in fights. So there's a couple spots where I could see potential slip ups, but I don't see a ton. It's just a matter of nailing those close fights that are going to be the difference. Yeah, I totally agree. It's going to be a very chalky card. And this card's going to probably really come down to having the right combination of fighters. I mean, I think everybody's going to have that general group. It's just a matter of making sure you put those right pieces together. All right, now let's go back to where we were. Next fight we got is Adrian Yanez at 9,200, Victor Rodriguez 7,000. Adrian Yanez comes in as a minus 450 favorite. Victor Rodriguez comes in as a plus 350 underdog. I like Adrian Yanez a lot in this fight. I think his boxing is great. He's quick. He looked awesome on Contender Series, knocked his opponent out, and I believe it was like 32 seconds or 30-something seconds. He has pretty good takedown defense. He fought Miles Johns in actually a pretty competitive fight. And then his opponent, Victor Rodriguez, is just garbage. He's an Alaskan fighter. Everything I watched, the opponents he fought are the lowest of the low. I would not consider, them any, it's Alaska regional scene for the most part is pretty low level. So I just think Adrian is better in this spot. I like him a lot. I think he has a great chance of getting a knockout win over Rodriguez. And he's probably going to be one of my most highly owned fighters on the slate. He's probably going to be semi-chalky because he has the second highest now inside a distance line besides Kevin Holland. So there's a lot of upside with him. He's a great GPP play. You can play him for cash as well. I mean, he throws high volume. I mean, it's limited sample size because it only has Dana White Contender Series that, he throws 10.77. But he's just one of my favorite plays on this slate. Next fight, you got Alex Hernandez, 9,300, taking on Chris Gertzmacher at 6,900. Alex Hernandez, minus 425 favorite. Gertzmacher, plus 325 underdog. Alex Hernandez should win this fight easily. He's a better striker. He's a better wrestler. He should win this fight, but the last couple fights he got a little cocky. He went in there super cocky against Cowboy Cerrone. He got knocked out, and then I can't remember off the top of my head. He also got knocked out in one of his other previous fights. He finally is training with a better team. I believe he's at Elevation Fight Team, and I think hopefully that change will improve him. I just the only way I could see it if Hernandez's gas tank just doesn't get any better, and Gertzmacher comes on late because Gertzmacher, semi-durable. He's mostly gotten finished via sub, but he throws at a high clip. But for the most part, I think this is probably one of the chalky dogs where I think has a potential to lose, a good, decent potential. But Alex Hernandez, I think he's more of a GPP play. You could probably play him for cash. I personally won't be. I think there's other spots that I'd rather play people in cash, but you could play him for cash. But ultimately, I like Alex Hernandez to win this fight, and he should win convincingly, but it's hard to trust. Next fight, we got Mr. COVID, Bobby Green, 9,000, taking on Thiago Moises, 7,200. Bobby Green's currently a minus 288 favorite, and we got Thiago Moises at a plus 248 underdog. Bobby Green, the guy's just been fighting every other week, it seems like. Every time we see him, he's fighting, and he's looking better and better. I don't know how at 34 years of age he's been improving so much, but he is in this fight. He's on the feet. He's gonna tear Moises apart. Moises' striking is god awful. He's in the last few fights, he's been getting pieced apart. Like when he fought Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson killed him in the first round. It should almost been a 10-8, first round. It was that big of a brawling. Then Moises came out, grabbed the leg, got a leg lock win. That was just kind of Michael Johnson just didn't do the right thing, and to get out of the leg lock, Michael Johnson should have destroyed him in that fight. And then the fight before that, I forget who he fought, and he got dropped at one point on the feet. He just doesn't look good. And I think Bobby Green is improving. His pace is actually picking up. Before, it used to be kind of, pot shot, jump in, jump out, get some takedowns. But he's super slick. If he does get taken down, he's able to get back up. He hasn't been submitted in forever. I think Bobby Green is a great cash play. I don't think he's going to attempt takedowns because of knowing how Thiago's ground game is, and he's a BJJ specialist. I think he's just going to stand up, pick him apart, land some shots, maybe gets a knockout, but more than likely, I think this is a fight that Bobby Green wins by decision. I don't think there's a ton of upside with Bobby Green, so he's a great cash play, and Ryan agrees with me on that. So, lock him in a cash lineup. Next fight, we got the former NFL player Greg Hardy, 8,800, taking on Maurice Crochet Boss Green, 7,400. Hardy is a minus 340 favorite. Green is a plus 265 underdog. Hardy has been improving every fight. He's honestly getting better than I thought he was. He's, super athletic, quick. He's a big guy. He actually missed weight on his first attempt this morning to weigh in. He missed the limit by a pound. He came back in and he was under the limit. He's got some power in his hands. But he's being, in his last couple fights, he's shown it. He's using his range. He's using his jab, and he's being more patient. He's not trying to just bum rush people and knock them out as soon as he gets, a chance to. Hardy on the feet. Hardy should win this fight. He hits harder. He hits more volume, and they both have the same reach. Maurice Green's a little bit taller, but Maurice Green eats almost as many strikes as he throws, where Hardy, only he throws 4.48 and he only absorbs 2.79. So he's got a pretty good differential right there. I just think if Green is able to get the fight down on the mat or, pull guard, that's where you're going to see Maurice Green have a chance. But I just think, Maurice Green, when he tends to get hit, once he gets hit, he's, he doesn't like it and he kind of shells up, or he'll pull guard just hoping that he can catch someone on the ground. I think Hardy's going to catch him and drop him with a shot and then ground and pound him, or he's just going to work him with a slow jab, or not a slow jab, but a jab all, 3 rounds and get a decision victory. I mean, I like Greg Hardy's a great GPP play. There's a ton of upside. I don't know if I'm going to be overweight on him or at the average of the, what everybody else is at. I haven't made up my mind yet, but he's a great GPP play. Maurice Green is a GPP play if you think he can get that submission victory. There's not many live dogs that I like. So, that's one I think that has a little bit of potential, but still don't like it a ton. Next fight, we got Kevin Trailblazer Holland, 8,200. taking on Charlie Ontiveros. I might have butchered that one, at 6,700. Kevin Holland minus 800 favorite. Charlie Oliveros plus 55 underdog. Charlie is taking this fight on a day's notice. He's not a very good fighter. Every time Charlie has fought and lost, he's been knocked out. And I honestly think Kevin Holland is going to knock him out. Charlie is moving up from what's called welterweight to 185. And Kevin Holland is, fought at 185. And I think it's going to be Kevin Holland's fight to win. He's going to be the massive chalk on this fight. Cash games, you have to have him. GPP, it's one of those things where you could fade him because he's probably going to be 75% owned. And if it could potentially pay off, but if you don't have him and he gets that knockout, you're screwed. It's one of those type of deals. So it's kind of either you go all in on fading him and hopefully he busts, or he only gets a decision win and it pays off. But if you don't have him and that happens, you're likely not going to cash because he's probably going to get a knockout or he's probably going to get some takedowns. And, he's got some slick BJJ and some groundwork. And, can take a ton of advances and reversals. So it wouldn't surprise me. But more than likely Kevin Holland's going to get a knockout, probably first or second round. At 8,200, it's he's going to break the slate. It just sucks. It sucks that it's the last opponent he had, Murdoch. Would have been a great fight to watch. It was a mid-range fight. Would have been close, competitive. But things happen. Holland's a big chalk, and you're just gonna have to. I think you're gonna have to eat it this week, unfortunately. Next fight is probably the people's main event for most entertaining fight of the night. You got Bryce Mitchell, 8,500. Andre Fili, 7,700. Bryce Mitchell currently minus 133 favorite. Fili plus 113 underdog. This fight is going to come down to whether Fili can keep it standing and defend the takedowns, and for Bryce Mitchell to get those takedowns, because Fili has been submitted twice in his career, but Fili's also fought way better competition. He's fought the best of the best in the division, where this is a huge step up for Bryce Mitchell. On the feet, it's not even a question. Andre Fili is way better technical striker. He's the bigger, taller, longer fighter. He throws at nearly 4 significant strikes a minute. He actually can wrestle if he wants. He works at Team Alpha Male, so he works with wrestlers. And I think it's since Calvin Kattar fight, he hasn't been taken down in a fight since. So his takedown defense is proven. He currently has a 69% takedown defense. Where Bryce Mitchell's, young, he's improving. I just think, Fili is a tall guy. So when he's going to Team Alpha Male, when he's fighting most of these guys at 145, he's a lot taller. And so it's just a matter of getting used to, getting taken down and getting his tall, lanky frame adjusted to that. So I like Andre Fili a lot in this fight. He's going to be the massive chalk underdog. Bryce Mitchell is a great GPP play. I think, Andre Fili you can use in cash or GPPs. There's high upside. I mean, if Mitchell's to win, it's going to have to be via submission, or if he is able to land takedowns consistently and try to just work on submitting them, but just controlling the rounds on the mat. But if that doesn't happen and Fili can defend the takedowns or even just defend the submissions and eventually get up for the next round, I think Fili is going to win this fight easily. Fili has power in his hand. He's not, he has 9 knockout wins. Bryce Mitchell has been sub before, so it wouldn't be out of the world if, Fili does take him down to show him, hey, I'm a good wrestler too. Let me, show you what I can do. But more than likely, Fili's going to play it smart. Alpha Male will have him trained. And Fili either gets a decision win or he has a chance for that knockout due to volume and his power. But I think this is a fight you're going to want to target either way for GPPs. Next fight, you got the main event. You got Uriah Hall, 8,600 versus Anderson the Spider Silva, 7,600. Uriah Hall is currently a minus 230 favorite. Anderson Silva's plus 195 underdog. This honestly could potentially be a very, very boring 5-round fight. Neither guy throws at a high clip. They're throwing at a little over 3, right at 3. They're not going to attempt takedowns. Um, they Hall very much respects Silva, and I have a feeling it could be kind of like when Silva fought Adesanya, where Adesanya respected Silva so much he didn't want to hurt him and damage him, so he just kind of picked him up, apart at range, and just did enough to win. Hall's, if he's smart, he'll implement leg kick game. You can see, between Cannonier, ending the last fight against Anderson Silva via leg kicks, and what Weidman did to his legs. He obviously has leg issues. He doesn't have the biggest of legs. And I think that's where Hall needs a target. If Hall just starts throwing leg kicks early and often, he's going to win this fight easily, potentially get a finish. But I don't know if he's going to do that, or maybe he will at the beginning and then just pop him from the outside just for respect to not try to knock him out. Could go that way. But I think honestly, this fight is going to go all 5 rounds. I think Hall's just going to try to do enough to, win, but show respect by not showing them up. Because I think there's so much respect there. Obviously this is, I didn't say it before, but Anderson Silva is retiring after this fight. So, he'll probably come in super motivated because he wants to go out, with a big W, but I just don't know how I see it. I think right now, Hall's improving a lot since he's transitioned. I believe he's out in Las Vegas training. But you never know. Silva's, when he had times when he looked good against Adesanya, but like I said before, he's lost, I believe, 6 out of his last 7 fights with 1 no contest, or it was 7 of his last 8 with 1 no contest. Either way, he hasn't won a fight in a while. He hasn't gotten a finish in 8+ years, so it's not likely he's going to get a finish. So there's not really much upside with Silva. I think Silva can be used as cash if he need to. I don't think this fight is worth stacking because if it goes to decision, it's probably going to be a combined maybe 100 points, which some people think for cash, that's fine to get out of 2 fighters 100 points. I don't think it's going to be. But either way, I mean, this is not, I don't know. I mean, I would say Hall is who you're going to want to play. You could probably use him if you're going single entry because he's probably going to be very popular. But I don't even know if he would be, I don't know, in my personal, if I was going single entry, if he's going to be in my single entry. I might go elsewhere with guys who I think have slightly higher upside. If the biggest edge contrarian play, I'm going back to Will Bryant. I mean, it's tough for me to always gauge ownership, so it's hard to tell where I can give that biggest contrarian edge. Oh, man. I would say potentially Dustin Jacoby. I don't know how people are going to be on him at 8,900. I know Greg Hardy's going to be very popular, owned in the higher end. I know Adrian Yanez will be higher end, higher owned. Sean Strickland will be probably higher owned. Maybe Bobby Green will be that guy too. He could be that, contrarian, biggest edge contrarian play just because I think people always view him as a cash guy because he used to be not a very high volume striker and, just did enough to win. And usually it was always in close decisions, but he's looked so good in, his fights recently, and especially since he's been fighting so often during this COVID. I think he might be that sneaky play. I think that's who I'm going to say is the, contrarian play, biggest edge contrarian play of the slate. And that's kind of it, folks. Obviously it was great to have some people in the chat today. If you have any more questions, I think we have one person in the chat right now. If you have any more questions, if not, I'm going to, get off this stream and watch, finish, writing up the war room for you guys. Again, if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and hit the bell so you get notifications when I go live. And again, if you haven't done so, use promo code DaveFriend for 3 free 30-day read-only subscription to Daily Fantasy Insider. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Twitter. There is my Twitter right there, dr_bean17. Again, don't be afraid. I'm usually always checking, I'm always on Twitter looking. I'm not always actively posting. I probably should post more, but again, don't feel free to DM me if you need to. And hopefully you guys all have green screens after this weekend. Good luck, everybody.